Good day, and welcome to a pre-Christmas edition of Motion to Adjourn. And today the online edition of Motion to Adjourn. And today we have as our special guest MP Jache Adams. And you have the floor. MP, you have the floor.
Season's greetings, MP Famous, to you and your listening audience. I appreciate.
Might have to speak up a little bit like you're in the House of Assembly.
Okay, season's greetings, MP Famous, to you and certainly your listening audience. I appreciate the invitation and look forward to the conversation.
Okay. So tell us a little about who is Jache Adams.
A bit about myself. I'm a father. I'm engaged to a beautiful fiance. I'm a son, a
What couldn't hear
grandson.
you? Say that again.
Yeah. Gotta highlight that one, right? Engaged to a beautiful fiance. I'm a son. I'm a grandson, an uncle, and so forth. Um, as you can appreciate, family is incredibly important to me, as they are truly the support and the backbone of everything that I do, as I try to be the backbone and support for them as well. I'm the proud MP of Constituency 19. I know we can discuss Constituency 19 a bit later, but I'm also very happy and very proud to be the chairman of the BEDC, the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation. About myself, I think entrepreneurship is really a passion of mine. I love to see the innovation that our people have. I love to see people taking pride in something that's their own, being owners of something. I love to see something. I love to see something grow from an idea to a successful entity that is creating wealth and adding value and employing people. So entrepreneurship has really been a passion of mine for quite some time. I've often ventured into small businesses of my own. But prior to politics, getting involved into politics, I worked for Butterfield for over 12 years. I worked in both their Bermuda and their Cayman offices and left about 2020, I think, in the early on stages of COVID. But I left as the assistant vice president in their corporate banking department, and was heavily involved in a lot of corporate lending as well. Proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha. That's my fraternity. That's a lot of the catalyst to a lot of the charitable work that I do as well. And so from there, it's about how best to serve the community.
Thank you. So recently you and others did a little canvassing and someone was able to capture that on video. So let's go to the tape.
Yeah. Here we are on C19, out to talk to the folks with their representative, Jache Adams.
We're out here in C19 today to represent Jache Adams, MP, that is going to get all the votes for the PLPs.
And here we are, Lemon and Ginger. Of course, we're supporting Jache Adams of Constituency 19.
Okay.
Who's that lady? Lemon and Ginger.
Lemon and Ginger, that's Miss Dyer. Always, certainly a stalwart. Always a pleasure to see and hear from Miss Dyer. I remember actually the first time I canvassed Mrs. Dyer and her husband. The husband is a big fisherman, and so they sat us down and offered us some fish, and we had a nice conversation about parochial issues, whether they be specific to Pembroke West, but also issues from a national scale as well. So Mrs. Dyer, is always a pleasure to see and hear from her.
Okay. So tell us, for those of us who have no idea where C19 is, tell us a little bit about that.
So where it is is interesting. I always simply say from the St. John's Road side, in essence, it's Point Mart all the way to Spanish Point Boat Club. And then on the North Shore side, I often say it's from PCC to the Spanish Point Boat Club. That's in essence, Pembroke West, out in the Spanish Point area. I love it. I love Pembroke West. I love representing the people of Pembroke West. As you recall, or as many recall as well, my grandfather was the MP in Pembroke West, the exact same area, from about 97 to 2003, albeit for the UBP. And so, even as a little boy, I got to see the diversity in the area, hear the concerns, and was able to build relationships with the folks in the area as well. I'm proud to always say that I'm the first PLP representative in C19. Certainly mindful that many dedicated PLP supporters had been waiting almost their entire adult lives to be represented by the Progressive Labor Party. And so I take it on as a certain standard that I must uphold to best represent them. But also I recognize that C19 has traditionally been a stronghold, if you will, for the then UBP and now OBA. And so I recognize that in order for me to be in this spot, there were people who took a leap of faith with me as well. And so I say all of that to say, as much as I look to uphold the standard for those die-hard, day one, dedicated supporters of the Progressive Labor Party who have been waiting to be represented by the PLP, I also feel a bit of responsibility to uphold a certain standard for those who took a leap of faith with me as well.
Yeah, that's the thing is that when you're MP, yes, you got elected as OBA or PLP or whichever side you are,
Mhm.
but you're the MP for everyone in that constituency. You can't segregate and say, well, I'm not gonna check for Miss Jones because she's PLP, or I'm gonna check for Miss Thompson because she's OBA. You have to move beyond your own political you know what your political philosophy is, but you
Yeah,
have to now become the area representative, right?
absolutely. And that's governing, right? So being a part of a government recognizes that we are representations for the entire community, but even as, representatives of specific areas, absolutely. Um, you I take that responsibility quite seriously to be able to be the best representation for everyone within the area. And so I smile because, C19 certainly um, has a lot of diversity in it. And so we would have individuals who are incredibly concerned with parochial issues. So whether they be the potholes or the state of the roads or the buses or things of that nature, or dock or Deep Bay, the status of Deep Bay, Admiralty House, so very parochial issues. And then I would go to the very next door and someone would say, I'm not concerned about any of that. Their main concern is national issues, i.e., our debt or the state of education or the state of crime. And so, and then even amongst that, there's different segments and there's different beliefs, right? So I can knock on one door and someone was, have a certain philosophy about education, and then go and knock on a completely different door and someone have a completely different idea. And so the idea is to be able to communicate effectively and commit myself to be the best representation of the community.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to come to C19, and let me just say frankly, there are some people there that um, on the outside looking in,
Mm-hmm.
people would say, oh, they would never vote for Jache. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen your interaction with these individuals, and I was thoroughly impressed with not the fact that how you were warmly greeted, but how when they brought up questions to you, you were able to articulate what the present situation is and what is the plans going forward to address this situation. So I personally just want to congratulate you on your you are a diplomat, right? Or you have diplomatic skills, which
I
is
appreciate
necessary
it.
because The thing about our country is that we're a diverse country. We're diverse ethnically. We're diverse economically, right?
Mhm.
And there's no one size fits all when you deal with constituents. And as you said, the concerns differ, but you as the MP, whoever you may be, must
Yeah,
be able to have a conversation with everybody. So I want to
absolutely.
congratulate you on that, and I'm quite sure that is part of the reason you were elected and part of the reason you will remain elected there.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes from what I would say the core root um, of why we do what we do, right? And so I would not be even put myself or make myself available to be in this position if I didn't care about the wider spectrum of people. From a, if I wasn't here to serve, and so I recognized, that even, and this exists within all constituencies, but we have blacks and whites and males and females, gays and straights, rich and poor, whatever the case may be. And I am the representative of them all. And so I take a bit of responsibility to keep myself abreast and informed of not just what's happening domestically, but also from a global perspective, so that no matter which household I'm in, no matter who I'm sitting and standing in front of, I can come from an informed decision. But it's not, and if you notice, it's not just me sort of being able to dictate, not dictate, but speak to what the government is doing. But I think as much of it is me advocating on behalf of the government, it's also a responsibility to listen to the people and demonstrate that they have been heard. And sure, certainly, part of the aim is to walk out of each household having them feel as though they've been heard.
Mhm. All right. One of the We move on to another subject which has aided quite a few Bermudians. Um, in part of your role, I don't know which hat you're wearing, but part of your role was to assist with this program that we're going to show a quick video about, and then you come back and elaborate on it.
Sure.
In October 2022, the government announced its Mortgage Guarantee Program, a joint venture with the Bermuda Commercial Bank aimed to assist Bermudians by making it both easier and more affordable to fulfill their dream of purchasing their first home.
This program is an opportunity to assist Bermudians and their borrowing needs with their vision of home ownership in the first phases and reducing the cost of borrowing in the next phases.
Trying to qualify for a mortgage with rising rates and a large down payment requirement has been challenging for some young people. With this program, the government guarantees a portion of each residential mortgage, and in return, the bank agreed to offer approved applicants a reduced interest rate starting at 5% and reduce the down payment from 20% to 10%. So what does all this mean in terms of savings? A simple example based on industry averages would see a person applying for a $600,000 mortgage traditionally be required to make a $120,000 down payment. However, under the Mortgage Relief Program, the borrower would see the requirement cut in half and would also see a significant reduction in their monthly repayments.
A few facts. Will you need additional funds? Yes. The additional funds will assist with legal costs, bank fee, appraisal, and property insurance. How long does it take to get approved? The process can vary between 2 weeks or longer, but is really contingent on the client providing all that is required to complete a full assessment.
The Mortgage Guarantee Program is currently in the second of 3 phases. In this phase, not only are Bermudian first-time homebuyers, regardless of their age, eligible, but any public officer with an existing mortgage looking to transfer their mortgage and receive the reduced interest rate is eligible as well. The third and final phase will allow all Bermudians the ability to transfer their mortgage and participate in the program. It's important to note that the government does not have any involvement or influence on the bank's decisions. Finally, as a reminder, The Mortgage Guarantee Program is a pilot program as the government continues to progress on the work necessary to reduce interest rates across all local banks.
The Mortgage Guarantee Program was mentioned to us by our lawyer and loan officer. Once my wife and I heard about it, we felt like it would be an awesome opportunity to assist us in purchasing our first home. With their assistance, their confidence in us, in putting up some funds along with our funds, really helped us get through the process. We are very excited about owning a piece of the rock, mainly because it's going to be our own space. For me, more personally and selfishly, there are things within this home that are required before we move in that I can do myself. So I guess it's a bit of my own personal touch that I'm mostly excited about. But for the family, we're looking pretty good about having our own space.
The Bermuda government will continue to provide opportunities to reduce the cost of living as we continue to rebuild and strengthen Bermuda. For more information, please visit www.bcb.bm or call 295-5678.
So let me ask you, as one of many who were intimately involved with that, how do you feel about this mortgage guarantee program coming to fruition?
Yeah, it's an ultimate proud moment on behalf of the government. As you recall, in our 2020 election platform and platforms prior to it, but specifically on the 2020 election platform, we committed ourselves to reducing mortgage rates. It's one of the things that we recognize, particularly during the pandemic and even up to today. We find ourselves in primarily a rising interest rate environment. And so we know what rising interest rates are doing to the overall community, whether it be increasing persons' overall mortgages, and then subsequently the increase in rents as well. And so we committed ourselves and dedicated ourselves to working with one of the financial institutions, Bermuda Commercial Bank, in coming up with an initiative that would help not only reduce mortgage rates for specific individuals, but ultimately with a focus of making it that much easier for young Bermudians to get on the property ladder. We want our young Bermudians to be invested in the country, be invested in the community. And so one of the ways that we wanted to help accomplish that was by trying to make it that much easier for them to get on the property ladder. And so when you speak to young people who are interested in purchasing properties, they often would indicate the two primary barriers, if you will, that would make it difficult is the down payment requirement as well as the relatively high interest rates. And so with this mortgage guarantee program, we were able to address both of these issues. And so we now are proud to have said that, as Mr. Deal from the video said, we've now had 49 young families who are now on the path to purchase their home, many of which would not have been able to do so had it not been for this program. So for example, and you use the example even from the video, traditionally, if someone were to purchase a $600,000 home, if you will, standard would be that person would have to come up with $120,000 and the bank would lend them $480,000. Well, if you can imagine, this becomes discouraging to many young Bermudians because for them, it would feel like a lifetime for them to be able to build up the coffers or savings to get up to $120,000, let alone to then qualify for a mortgage that tacks on another 30 years. And so we take that seriously. And we were able to, with this mortgage guarantee program, be able to cut that in half. So instead of an individual now being responsible to come up with $120,000, that person now has to just come up with $60,000, which I take, it's a bit of give and take, because some will say that even 60 is quite high. And I get that, and there's still more work to be done. One of the things that we emphasize with the mortgage guarantee program is that it's a pilot program. It is simply to get our foot in the door because it is the government's overall objective to reduce mortgage rates for everyone. And so we are proud to be able to have accomplished this. We are proud to now see it sort of come to fruition, see it actually take place. And it goes back to my passion for entrepreneurship. It's something, it's something that came from a concept, then a product, and now we are actually seeing people benefit from the product. And so it is fulfilling for us, you and I, and all of our colleagues can attest to. This is the reason we do what we do. We can now say that we have helped get 49 young people on the property ladder who perhaps would not have been able to do so if it were not for this program. And so now we're actually pleased to be on the second phase of the mortgage guarantee program, where we are now saying to public officers, all public officers, whether they be teachers, police officers, prison officers, postal workers, bus drivers, any public officer is able to now transfer their mortgage over into the program and receive the reduced interest rate of 5%. So I often encourage all public officers to listen, take a look at your mortgage, get a better understanding of the rate that your current bank is charging you, and at the very least, be able to, or I would encourage them to reach out to Bermuda Commercial Bank and see what level of savings they would receive with this interest rate of 5%. And I think, that is this government committed to doing whatever it can for the betterment of our people.
Okay. So do you know roughly how many public officers may have taken up that office so far?
So I don't know. I don't know that offhand. I think I will get a report. I'll get a report by the end of this month to sort of give an indication. What I will say is that the work still continues to get the message out there. I've recently had conversations with BPSU members. I've sort of engaged with the BIU to be able to speak to its members, and we continue to get the message out there as to what's available for the public officers, so that they're able to take advantage. But I also recognize that we are also at the cusp of entering into phase 3. And so phase 3 ultimately is we no longer just limited to public officers. We then say to any Bermudian, if you are unhappy with your mortgage rate, and if you are unhappy with your mortgage rate, you now have the ability to transfer that mortgage over to BCB and receive the preferred rate. And so, as much as we have provided this current opportunity for public officers, there's also, as you can appreciate, many Bermudians who are chomping at the bit for phase 3 to begin so that they can take advantage as well.
Yeah, I don't think if you said to a crowd of Bermudians, hands up who's happy with the current mortgage rate, there's no one gonna put their hand up.
Exactly. And so, there's two parts to it. The first part is this pilot program, which we will continue to advocate for and be able to promote. I think one of the key pieces, though, as much as we champion it, one of the key pieces to this is be able to articulate the fact that we being the government are not involved or have any influence on any decision. And so we leave that up to the bank's bank, if you will, that's their level of expertise. And effectively what we've ultimately said is we will apply our guarantee. And then the bank has responded and said, well, with your guarantee, we are prepared to offer a reduced rate. But that's the pilot program. I want to assure the public that we are not resting on our laurels, if you will, that the work continues to be able to position ourselves to, at one point in the near future, be able to say to the public that all mortgage rates throughout the island will be reduced. And so we continue to do that work, and we plan, and I have every expectation that we will deliver.
All right. last week in the House, a monumental piece of legislation was passed. Some piece of legislation that for years some people had been advocating for, and others had the concept that it would never happen.
Mm.
Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, sure. So, we're referring to corporate income tax. Um,
Hmm.
I think the early stages for me, and I tell people all the time, I find that when most people, well, not most, but when many people think of corporate income tax, the first thing that comes to mind is the potential for significant revenue for the government, and it's usually followed up by ways that we can spend it. But for me, when I think of corporate income tax, actually the first thing that I can think of is the fact that um, it serves as a reminder as to how small we really are. Because ultimately, what happened was a few years ago, large nations gathered amongst themselves and decided amongst themselves that they were going to make a material global change in the global tax system, and effectively said to the rest of the world, including Bermuda, that you must comply or else. And so there was a thought and there was a feeling that this was actually going to be the death blow to our economy, that this was going to be a catalyst of double taxation for the companies that are here, and therefore be the catalyst for many of these companies to leave to avoid double taxation. But in true Bermudian fashion, and I think this is absolutely key, because in true Bermudian fashion, we did not cower, we did not complain, we actually adapted, we persevered, and we have put forth a piece of legislation that qualifies these businesses to be able to meet the standards by uh, um, sending or having those corporate income tax charged to Bermuda. And so ultimately, what I'm saying is what was meant or considered to be a death blow to our economy, we have now adapted, we've put legislation and put forth, and now positioned ourselves to have a potential of really having this be a positive for the economy. So in essence, we have turned lemonade or made lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, because the thing is that traditionally there's always been this boogeyman, keywords boogeyman, when it comes to the PLP. One being independence, two being income tax, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people who, let me just put it mildly, people who don't like us
Yes.
go around and say, oh, if they put this tax in, the the businesses are going to pack up and leave, and you would see a long line of private jets down the airport with people coming to collect the money and going, all this
Yes, yes.
uh, rhetoric, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just for clarity, I may have missed it earlier. What part did IB play in helping to craft this legislation?
Yeah, so it's an interesting space because I have to give, our Premier and Minister of Finance a lot of credit. I have to give many of our technical officers within the Ministry of Finance a lot of credit because they had the foresight to engage the IB community and consult with them from the very beginning. And so we being the government issued or impaneled an international tax working group with consisted of many senior tax experts, accountants, actuaries, and the like, um, who were committed to putting together a framework and presented to the government several recommendations as to how best to address this corporate income tax. If I can sort of just go back, if you will, and I agree with you that I want to sort of emphasize that this was not a government initiative. The government, and what I mean by it is the government responded to the OECD and G20 agreement of a global minimum tax. So we responded to that agreement. And as a result, we've now put legislation forward. And that legislation was put forward and tabled and passed in the House last Friday. But it sort of emphasized that much of that legislation came from the recommendations of our international business community. And so we have involved them in every step of the way. They are well aware, and they were well, committed to the betterment of the country. And so we appreciate that. And I certainly say that what we've put forward in terms of the corporate income tax, and I think this needs to be emphasized as well, that what we put forward and what we passed was supported by ABER, ABIC, and BILTAIR. Those three bodies
Sorry,
that
could you say that again, please, sir?
are the legislation that we put forward was absolutely supported by ABER, ABIC, and BILTAIR. And so, the idea, the notion that there's going to be some mass exodus as a result of this legislation, we strongly disagree, because the legislation came from their recommendations. They were dedicated, and it's sort of to almost drive home the point. I can tell you that to create a monumental shift in our tax system, if we were to really think about it and consider it, it would have realistically taken about possibly 2 years to actually put in place. But thanks to IB's commitment, and thanks to having them dedicate senior accountants and senior lawyers and the like to participate in this initiative, what would have normally taken 2 years, they were able to put in the long hours and the double duties and whatnot, and we were able to accomplish it in less than 5 months. This doesn't come because they plan on leaving. This comes, and they put the hard work because they are dedicated to Bermuda and they want to stay here. And so we appreciate their efforts. And certainly the other piece to it is that what we put forth on Friday was simply the foundation. It was the groundwork legislation. There's still more work to be done. There's still more engagement to be had and more decisions to be made. And so we look forward to continuing our work with the IB community, as well as now we've empaneled the Tax Reform Commission, who will present a report in mid-June. And so effectively, a lot of the details of the corporate income tax now will or has the potential of stemming from the recommendations of the Tax Reform Commission.
All right, thank you. So, as you said, as you and others, including MP Curtis Dickinson, has said, that this is just the foundation in which we build up things. So, what we would like to do is invite you, as these things develop, invite you to come back sometime the new year to, I won't say fully explain, but to further explain the corporate income tax, because there's a lot of, for lack of a better term, miscommunication purposely being put out there, number one.
Of course.
And for those who are open-minded, they still need to know, okay, how does this work? How does this help Bermuda as a whole? How is this going to help myself as a family or as an individual? So these are the things that we need to continuously communicate to the people of Bermuda in layman's term, because not everybody's going to read 70 something pages of legislation.
No, about taxes, right?
Yes,
so,
about tax.
Yeah.
No one wants to read about tax.
So I mean, if I wanted to sort of leave people with something and sort of, keep it as high level and as broad as I possibly can, this corporate income tax is absolutely has the potential of being a material or demonstrate a material increase in government revenue. And from that, the government has committed to putting together initiatives, whether it be to focus on reducing the cost of living and the cost of doing business, and other initiatives that can stem from this additional revenue. And so there are risks as well, and I think we'll have to elaborate on those risks on another day. But there are risks as well, and so we have to, and we are taking a measured approach. We are making sure that we are continuing to engage with stakeholders around the community, and as well as we are ensuring that we have this to be adequately managed, and so that what has the potential of being really significant for the island then comes to fruition. And so we're focused on that, and I have every bit of confidence that we will deliver.
All right. Well, thank you for this introductory. As we
No,
wind
thank
up,
you.
we know what the season is. Is there anyone you want to, any bodies, plural, that you'd like to send season's greetings out to?
Yeah, so I mean, season's greetings to my family, my friends, our Progressive Labor Party family, to the constituency 19, and specifically the constituency 19 PLP branch. They are incredibly supportive. Nothing that I do is in isolation. It is always a collective effort, and I certainly appreciate them. I appreciate the wider community for their continued support over the last few years. I wish everyone a prosperous new year, and I hope that 2024 is even better than 2023.
All right. Well, thank you once again, and we look
Thank
forward
you.
to having you back sometime in the new year as we get
Anytime.
closer to not D-Day, B-Day, Budget Day, because we know
Yeah,
there's another thing that you handle is helping to frame the budget, and then there's
yes,
what you call the pre-budget report.
yeah. So, happy to discuss those items. Budget day is going to be an exciting day. I think there's some significant accomplishments that the government has able to, or is able to bring forth as a result, and looking forward to articulating those.
All right. Well, thank you, MP Adams, and thank you to the people of Bermuda. Our radio edition of Motion to Adjourn will be tonight, where I have be with my co-pilot, Dwayne Robinson, Senator Dwayne Robinson, and we'll be doing open mic shout outs for people to send their Christmas greetings. And look forward to continuously informing the people of Bermuda. Thank you once
Yes.
again, MP Adams.
Thank you, MP Famous. Continue with the good work. I appreciate
And
it.
what you say?
PLP all the way, all the way,
All the way.
PLP.
And special shout out to a lady that has been instrumental in both of our political careers, and that will be no other than Miss Sandy Gilbert of Creekview
absolutely.
Lane.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Aunt Sandy. All right.
Take care.
Cool, brother.